Grr, arg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mixtape Podcast. At the Mixtape Podcast, we talk about movies from a screenwriter's perspective, but also movies that we love. I am your host. My name is Dean Stark, and I am joined by my co host, Marcelo Inostroza. And up this week, we have one of my favorite horror movies of all time. We have I Know What You Did Last Summer, released in 1997, directed by Jim Gillespie, screenplay by Kevin Williamson, based on the novel of the same name by Lois Duncan. Now, you may be thinking, well, a movie based on a book, how hard can that be to write a screenplay? You already have the blueprint. But let me tell you, folks, the book that this movie is based on is completely different. Completely different. So Kevin Williamson really took a lot of liberties, took what you didn't need out of the novel and just really, really made it his own, which I really appreciate because Kevin Williamson is a boss. And if you don't know what I Know What You Did Last Summer is about, you should, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Four friends bound by a tragic accident are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac. Okay, the opening scene is pretty quick. I love the camera work. When it first opens, we're like the camera's pushing over the ocean, and then it does this really cool, the director does this really cool thing where it's obvious, like back then we didn't have drones, so it would have been probably a helicopter. It goes down the ocean, and then it does this twisty thing. There's cliffs and it does this loop and then it loops all the way around. And then it focuses in on a young man sitting atop a cliff in fisherman overalls, looking at a trinket that says, "I love you." And he's drinking a beer and he's looking very, very drunk. And then we hear fireworks and he looks up and then we go to the next scene. But that's the small opening scene. So what did you think?
I love the opening scene to this movie because it's so great. And like Dean said, when this movie was made, we didn't have drones, so most likely it was a helicopter shot. It was a great way to introduce the sort of MacGuffin of this movie. It's really, really simple. You just have this you just have this individual sitting on a cliff, drinking a beer and playing with a little trinket. But I also love the transition when he actually plays his little trinket and he looks up. The editor transitions right from when he looks up to the fireworks to the next scene. It's a really, really, really great way to convey sort of. It's a great way to introduce your MacGuffin, and it's a great way to transition into the next scene, I thought.
Yes, and it's a great way to show that it's happening on the same night. It's the same time frame. It's not like the guy sitting on a cliff and then we cut to the next scene and that's like 2 weeks later. Like that's a good way of putting in like a timestamp without putting
That's
a
a good point.
timestamp. Right.
I didn't think of it that way. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, because it's the 4th of July. So there's fireworks.
Yeah.
So now, by the way, this movie is an example of expert screenwriting. Now, Kevin Williamson did not have to go this hard. He didn't have to go this hard with this movie because
no, he did not.
Slasher movies made these days, the writers don't care. They're like, well, people just want to see young people getting dead in creative ways. That's it. Kevin put in character arcs. He made you give a shit about the characters, and he weaved in this really intricate story. Sometimes people think I Know What You Did Last Summer is like, oh, that sounds shit. But when you really get into the crux of it, which we will, it's actually expertly written. And that's why I love Kevin. If you don't know who Kevin is, Kevin also wrote Scream. So anyway, now we're at the Croaker Queen pageant where we meet Helen, who is Sarah Michelle Gellar, aka Buffy. And she's a contestant. And then we meet Barry, who is Helen's boyfriend, and he watches on in the balcony with Julie and Ray, now who are Helen's friends. And these are the 4 people that we're going to be following through the movie. Helen wins the pageant. Now we go to the after party because it's the 4th of July and it's this small little fishing town community and everybody's celebrating. Now this is a 5-minute scene, but there are a lot of setups that Kevin does just in this 5-minute scene. Helen reveals in a passing comment to Julie that she's obsessed with her hair. It's all about the hair. That's a setup. That will come back later on. We meet Helen's older sister. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. This is the only thing in the script where I thought I never understood it. Helen's older sister comes in and out of the story, but her older sister hates her. She's just such a bitch to Helen. And I don't know why. She's like this viper towards her, and there was never an explanation on why she hates her sister so much. Do you know why? Because I don't know why.
If he wanted Helen's sister to be so violently vitriol towards her, he should have gave her a reason why. Like the only reason that I could have that I could surmise is that Helen was possibly the golden child of the family, and her older sister saw that as a minor annoyance, and that's why she was so cruel towards her throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought she was just always jealous of Helen. But yeah, it was just, I was like, oh, Kevin, you've done everything perfectly. But I just don't know why her sister hates her so much because Helen, she's not a bitch. She's blonde and she's pretty, but she's not a bitch. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that there for anybody that wants to mull over why her sister hates her. So the other setups in this scene is we meet Max, who has a thing for Julie. Julie is set up as the nice one, doesn't want to cause trouble, completely opposite to Helen. Helen is the loud one. She's the party girl. She's not a bitch, but she's just like, I'm going to do what I want. And Julie is a little bit more reserved. Now we meet Barry, who is Helen's boyfriend. And he basically pushes Max out of the way and grabs a shot. And he doesn't acknowledge him. And then he's a bully. He's a jock. And it sets Barry up as being a self-absorbed ass.
I love the setups in this scene because it's so economical. Look, guys, we talk about economical screenplay writing on the show a lot, but the way that Kevin did this by having our main cast members sort of say things about themselves that were going to be paid off later, like Helen mentioned, it's all about the hair. When Max came up to Julie and asked Julie if they could go out and get a drink, when Barry came in between them, you know everything that you need to know about your main cast of characters in this scene. And the one guy that we don't learn about, Ray, we're going to learn about in the next scene. It's absolutely perfect. You even learn about Helen's sister that has a problem with her, like I said previously, and like
Mm.
Dean and I have talked about previously. So it's really excellent screenplay writing to a T. It's so good, guys. And look, I'm not saying this because I worship the ground that Kevin walks on. It's just so good.
So in the next scene, we're with Helen, Julie, Ray, and Barry, and they're sitting at the beach, and they're telling I love this. They're telling a story about a crazy person that kills people with a hook on his hand. It sets up the entire movie because that's what this movie is, right? So it's like Kevin's got them telling a like a myth or a legend, and it's like actually
A campfire story,
and it's actually like this is what this story is. This is what this movie is about, and I love that. I love that he put that in there. Helen and Barry go off and they're saying how she wants to be a famous actress and that he'll be a famous football player, and it's very sexually charged relationship. And this sets up Ray. Now Ray and Julie go off and they sit by themselves, and Ray's the nice guy. He's the caring boyfriend. He's the complete opposite to Barry. Like Ray loves Julie
Can I just say something about Ray?
Yes.
Ray, to me, in this rewatch, to talk about it on our show here, came off as so. It's almost like he didn't have a spine.
No, he didn't. But that's in the next scene. Like this, the way that he's set up, and his character arc progresses because he does have a character arc. That's why it was
does.
yeah.
It does.
But no, in the next couple of scenes, you see, because people are one way, and then when they're pushed to, like, when there is an issue, when there's drama, that's who the real person is. That's when the real them comes out.
That's when they come out.
Right. So he's set up as he's a nice, caring boyfriend. He loves Julie. You know, he's the kind of guy that like any girl would want to be with. He's cute. He's not pushy with the sex thing. You know, it's like, oh, okay, he's really cool. And he loves Julie for her heart. And he really does. Whereas Barry loves Helen, like, not for her heart, for, you know, his penis. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very different dynamic.
Very different dynamic, yes. I really, really love this scene with all our main cast around the campfire because it really, really gives you a really good look about how their dynamics works. Their dynamic works as a group, and I also love the fact that the name of the beach is Dawson's Beach. I really come on, that's just
Yeah.
great.
Yes, Kevin, we know. We know Kevin.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
we know. But also I really love the scene because these people at this point in their life have so much hope. And it's
Mm.
really, really great that in a scene from now, all that hope is going to be taken from them and they're going to have to react to it. And I really love stories that take characters that have everything
Mm.
and then for one reason or another, those characters that have everything in one moment lose it all. And I love to see how they would react in that type of situation if they were to be called to be put in a situation like that. And this movie does that in spades, I think.
So they leave the beach and Ray drives as Barry is way too drunk. Now, Barry is in the back seat with Helen. Julie is in the front seat with Ray. Barry stands up in the sunroof and is just drunk as shit. And then he drops his
He's an
alcohol.
asshole.
He's an asshole. And then he drops his alcohol in the car all over Ray driving. Ray gets distracted and then he hits something. And they stop in the middle of the road. And they find out that they hit a person who is wearing the same fisherman overalls as the guy in the beginning on the cliff, but he's got blood all over his face. So when you're watching this movie the first time, it's like, oh, of course he's got blood all over his face. But if you've seen this movie before, you're like, oh, of course he's got blood all over his face. So we can't see who he is. It's perfect. It's perfect. I don't know if the director came up with that or Kevin. I don't know. Anyway, Barry starts freaking out about his car because Barry is self-absorbed. And his character stays that way until the end. Like, there's no arc for Barry, which I don't care, which is fine. You don't have to have an arc. Barry just wants to leave. And he says, we're going to dump the body because I'm not going to go down for this. And if it's manslaughter, we're all going to go to jail. Like, we're just starting our lives out. We cannot have this shit on our heads. Now, Ray and Helen agree. Julie is standing there like, who the fuck are you? Because she's the only one who has a moral compass.
Julie, Julie, Julie. I'm sorry, Dean. Julie in this scene is the voice of reason for everyone.
Yes, she's the voice of reason. She's the only one that's got her moral compass turned on. And she wants to go to the cops. She's like, no, it's the right thing to do. We can't just, what are you talking about? Dump the body, right? So she gets completely overruled by everybody. And then a car drives up and it's Max. Max set up in the last scene that likes Julie. And Julie tries to get rid of him, saying, oh, Barry's sick. We had to stop the car. He can't see the body, can't see anything. And which she does, she gets rid of him, but he looks as if he knows she's hiding something. He looks as if like he's not saying something, which is a setup that's going to happen later. So what did you think about the hitting the guy and the whole dynamic? Because in that, it was drama. It was dramatic. They were at each other's throats. It was like, no, don't do this. Like, you can easily put yourself in this situation. You go, well, what would I do? What realistically would I do in that situation? And it seems easy, but it's not.
I think this scene does two things. I think this scene really shows what these people really think of each other and who these people really are. Because there are so many moments in life when individuals are put into stressful situations. And when individuals are put into stressful situations, they find out who they really are and they find out how their friends react in moments of high stress. And I really think that it was admirable that Julie was the only one that said, hey guys, we should do the right thing when everybody else was kind of thinking about the consequences of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to say that Ray, Barry, and Helen were not wrong for reacting the way that they did because let's play devil's advocate. Let's play devil's advocate here for just a second. If they went to the police and said what happened to the police letter by letter, the chances are any prospects that these individuals had would be shot to shit.
Yeah.
Because they would probably go to jail for at least manslaughter. I mean, Helen's career would be over before it started. Barry's career to be a football player would be done.
Yeah.
And Ray would be cast down with the satellites because Ray is is sort of the black sheep of the group because Ray is a son of a fisherman.
Yeah.
So he has no prospects.
Yeah.
So I love the way that Kevin sort of set that scene up and he showed us how these characters react in a life and death situation like this.
Yes, no, I agree. So they carry the body to the docks, and Julie notices that the guy has a Susie tattoo on his arm, and that's significant. That comes back later. And Julie is still pleading with them to stop. She's like, look, it's not too late. We can call the cops. And basically, Barry says, and I love this because this sets up the killer. He says, just pretend he's an escaped lunatic with a hook for a hand. A second later, the guy opens his eyes and grabs Helen's crown off her head because she's won the pageant. She's still got the crown on her head. And they push him into the ocean. He takes Helen's crown. Barry jumps in. I love the way that they shot this. Barry jumps into the ocean to retrieve the crown. And the guy is like standing there. He's like standing on the bottom of the ocean, just looking up at Barry, and it's the creepiest fucking shit. It creeps me out even now. So he's still alive, but Barry gets the crown, and Barry gets out of the water. But what I love about that is the fact that Barry said, "Just pretend he's got a hook for a hand." The guy heard that. That's why he turned into the killer, because he heard what Barry said. He goes, "Well, I'm gonna do it." Like, I've never seen that before. Anyway, Barry tells everyone to take this incident to the grave, right? And everybody's agreeing, and Julie's like, yeah, I'll take it to my grave. And Barry basically slams her up against the car, puts a hand around her throat, telling her, say it. Say, we're going to take this to our grave. Now, Ray does nothing. He's like, stop it, Barry. Stop it. He does nothing.
This is why I say Ray doesn't have a spine.
I
Shit
agree.
like this.
I agree. Afterwards, because Julie's like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do it. Afterwards, she gives Ray this look, and it fucking just says everything. It says she doesn't even need to fucking say fuck you. She just looks at him like, wow, you actually fucking did nothing. Look, Ray is nice, and I've even gotten written in my notes. Ray is nice, but he's spineless. It's like exactly what you said. And then we finish on a shot of the trinket that says, I love you, that fell from this guy's pocket. Now, we've seen that trinket in the beginning of the guy sitting on the cliff. Again, expert screenwriting. This is screenwriting like, it's like, look over here when something is different is happening over here. It's really good.
No, and and the brilliant thing about the script is that for 99% of the movie, you think that our main cast is being pursued by this killer because of this reason. And then right before we hit the third act, something happens. You're like, wait a minute, what the fuck is this? So I can't wait till we get to that. But I really, really love this scene because it's just so great. I mean, when Barry jumps in the water and he tries to get the crown back, and the guy that they just ran over with their car is holding the crown, but when Barry comes close to him, he opens his eyes, and that line that Barry says, that Dean said, let's just pretend he's a guy with a hook for a hand. That's so great. I did not think that he chose to do that because of what Barry said.
Mm.
I like just hearing you say that now, I'm like, oh my God, maybe that's why he chose that.
Did.
Like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's just a wonderful scene. And also when they're all walking back to the car and Barry's sort of trying to jam it into everybody's brains that nobody should ever talk about this ever again. They should take it to their grave. The amount of vitriol and violence that Barry shows to everyone is just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys just committed murder and dumped a body, but aren't these fucking people your friends? What is wrong with you?
He's a jock narcissist. That's what's wrong with him. That's the problem.
Okay, he's a jock narcissist, but that was such a expertly written scene, and it was so good. And like Dean said, I love how this movie, how the script in particular gives you one definition, but behind the scenes it's writing its own definition, and we won't find out what that definition is until way into the third act of this movie. It's just fantastic, people.
So now we go 1 year later, and Julie's at college, and it's summer break. She has to go home, but she really, really doesn't want to. Now she gets home, and she's a shell. of the person she used to be. Her mum's asking her questions. She doesn't want to answer. She's failing in school. She's quiet. She's vacant. She's just not the person who she used to be, because what they did is actually messing her up, because she has a moral compass and she's gone against it. So her mum says a letter came for you, and she opens it and it reads, "I know what you did last summer." And Julie freaks out. So there you go.
Yeah, listen, it was a really really good decision by Kevin to push the story forward a year later and to open up a year later with Julie. And just the contrast, because when we first met Julie, she was so bubbly, she was top of the class, she had hope, and to open up a year later with Julie, but having her be a shell of herself because of what happened a year ago. I mean, it's so fantastic. And I love when she goes home and she's sitting at the dinner table with her mother, and her mother goes, "Your father would be rolling in his grave if he found out that you were failing. And I just want to know, are you on drugs?" Like, it's hilarious to me that like every adult in the '90s, if they had kids that were having a problem in school, they would immediately go to drugs.
Yeah.
It was it was like it was like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Like,
All the
you
time.
know,
90s parent, it's drugs.
what
That's
the
what it is.
what the fuck? What the fuck? But I also love the really, really, really short scene that happens almost immediately after this, where
Mm,
Julie is in the living room of her house,
mm,
and her window is open, and she can't even sleep.
mm.
She goes over towards the window, and she closes the window, and she goes back on the couch. But the way that Jennifer Love Hewitt plays that scene is so great. She plays it with such grace
Mm.
and also such emotion. I mean, she doesn't need to say anything, but you see her mind state, you see what she's feeling, and it's all in her face. It's so great.
Yeah, you can tell she's scared. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nothing even happens. It's just windy outside, but she's scared.
Yeah. She's scared out of her wits at this point. Yeah.
So Julie drives to Helen's sister's store, asking for Helen's New York number, because Helen was supposed to go there and be this like big actress and big star. And Helen's sister kind of scoffs, and she's like, "Helen's New York number? Well, I would point you 10 paces to the left, ladies' fragrances," where Helen is. Her sister's such a bitch. I love her sister. It's a bitch, but like it's hilarious. And it's Sonya Blade from Mortal Kombat. You can't hate her. You just can't. Anyway, Julie shows Helen the note, and they both mildly kind of panic about it, while Helen's sister watches on suspiciously. And that's a kind of setup, which I appreciate, because what this movie and this script has to do is it has to set up false
Red
people,
herrings.
red herrings, thank you, red herrings, as the killer, so you don't know who the fuck it is. So they go to see Barry, because Helen asks, "Has Barry seen this?" And they've broken up, and Barry's an even bigger asshole than he was before, and he's not fazed by the letter. He's like, "It's a letter, who cares? It's like some fucking person fucking with us." But Julie says she found out the name of the guy that they killed, and his name was David Egan. He was found 3 weeks after we hit him, and Barry says it's Max. It has to be, because he's the only one that was there, that was on the road that night. He must have seen something, and he's the only one that would send the note. One other thing about this scene before I ask what you think. Every single time I see this movie, when Julie goes in to see Helen, Jennifer Love Hewitt has lost her voice. So this must have been filmed after the third act of the movie, where she's screaming, because she has no voice in that scene. And I'm like, oh, okay. It kind of always takes me out of it, because I know that they've filmed the third act, because that's how movies are filmed anyway. They're filmed out of order. But it's just funny. It's just in that one scene where she doesn't have a voice. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I notice that every time she walks into the shop.
It's such a great scene because we last saw Helen and she had all this hope for her future. She was going to go to New York to be a serious actress and inspire people from her art. And there are so many people like that have this false impression of what it's going to take to become a famous person or to become a famous writer or to become a famous director. But when they actually try and do it, it's two different things. And a lot of them, like Helen, resort back to their home life because they couldn't do it. They go
Mm,
out there and they try it and they fucking fail.
mm,
So So I think Helen's failure at becoming an actress has a lot to do with the fact that just a year ago she was part of an attempt to cover up a murder. But I also think that Kevin made a great choice of having her not achieve her dream of becoming a famous actress. The whole thing about Barry being a bigger asshole, I definitely agree with. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Mm.
There's a really small line as Helen and Julie walk up to Barry's house, and then Barry looks over the balcony and goes, "What the hell are you guys doing here?" Right?
Mm.
I always thought that Barry never went to college, but there's a really small line that
No.
says,
Yeah. I know the line you're talking about. The line that says Helen says, "Have you seen Barry?" and Julie says, "No, it's a big campus." Is that what you're talking
"Yeah,
about? Yeah.
but I was always under the impression that Barry basically didn't go to college because of what happened a year ago."
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah. Just now, folks, I'm going to blow your mind for the first time ever. It's the first time I've seen this movie 1,000 times, but it's the first time that I've actually caught that line, and I actually realized that Barry goes to the same school that Julie goes to.
Yeah. So Barry confronts Max because he thinks it's Max at the docks because Max is a fisherman. He works at the docks and he tells him to stop sending letters. Otherwise, he's going to fucking beat the shit out of him. He grabs a hook from the wall and he basically threatens him with it. Max is pissed off because he has no clue, legitimately no clue what Barry is fucking talking about. And then Barry goes out to the girls and says, yeah, he's not going to be bothering you anymore. Julie sees Ray working on the docks and basically fills him in on what's going on. And then he says, I know you hold me responsible for what happened. And she said, no, I don't hold you responsible. I'm responsible for my own actions, which is very, very smart and very, very true. And then she says, she says the line that I'm always like, oh my God, Julie. Like, she goes, I don't blame you, but I don't want to know you either. And then she just fucks off. And I'm like, fucking burn. Imagine if someone says, I don't want to know you, and then just walks off. Fuck. Julie, burn.
Yeah, listen, watching Julie, watching Helen, and watching Barry go to Max and having Barry sort of assault Max and accuse him of being the one who wrote the letter, I thought was really, really great. The other thing, that this does set up is that when this scene happens, after Barry walks away from Max, Max is fucking on cloud nine, right? And he says, "If you come near me again, I'm gonna call the cops on you, you motherfucker." So Kevin has actually set up Max as a potential killer as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It works really well. And the when Julie and Ray get reunited, and what Julie says to Ray after they sort of conversate for a couple of moments, like Dean said, it's really fucking awful. It it's it's not necessary. Even if Ray showed his true colors to Julie as to what kind of individual he is under extreme pressure, Julie, I think that she went a little bit too far with that. And I'm like, that's not necessary.
No, I don't. Because yes, he's spineless, but also he didn't back her up. He's her boyfriend. He should have been with her. He should have been like, okay. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what
Yeah,
fucked her off as well.
but you know what? I'm kind of having an epiphany at this moment.
Yeah.
He should have protected her when Barry fucking choked her out at the car.
I know. Yeah. So she had every right to say, I don't want to know you. Because
You know
no.
what? You know what? You know what, folks? For the first time in show history, I'm going to take that back.
Yeah. Yeah. She fucking should have said much worse to him.
I'll take that back.
So now we go to Max, and Max is working on the docks, and he goes inside, and he's got a basket full of crabs, and this is the first time I've noticed this. He's putting the crabs in boiling pots, which is odd because normally you'd put them on ice. Thank you, Deadliest Catch, because that's how I know that's what you do. So it strikes me as weird, but the reason they did that was not for accuracy. It's to get the steam because all the steam is coming out of the boiling pots as he's putting the crabs in, and you can't see anything. It's very ominous. It's a very very cool scene, aesthetically looking. And then Max hears a sound in front of him, but he can't see in front of him. It's all steamy. Then a hook comes out of the steam, comes out of nowhere, and fucking gets him right under the chin. And every time I say that, I'm like, oh my God, that's one of the worst places. And the killer pulls his body up and drags him across the table that's in front of him to the other side. It's probably my favorite kill. And so now we know it's not Max, but that's a really, really good kill. Really good kill.
It's a great kill, and it's an amazing setup as well because Mac comes into the scene and he walks into like the area where he's gonna steam the food, and he has the hook stuck on one of the ice things, right? And he just grabs it off. And as he's putting whatever he's putting into the steam, he burns his hand on the steam. So he goes to get some gloves, he comes back and he's doing his thing, and then the hook comes out of the mist. It's such a great kill. It's really, really great. But let me ask you this.
Hmm.
How efficient is a hook if you want to actually kill someone? Couldn't the killer pick another weapon?
No, a hook is great if it's sharp enough. Yeah, hell yeah. It's quick,
Okay.
it's small, you can hide it, you can have a good grip on it. Like, nah, I think it's fantastic. So we follow Barry now. Barry's going to the local gym to work out. And when he gets out of the shower, he notices a Polaroid photo at his locker of his car parked out front. And on the back, it reads, I know. Now he's like, what the fuck? So he walks around the locker room. There's nobody there. He gets back to his locker and his jacket is missing. And he's like, what the fuck? He goes to the front guy that's at the desk and he's like, is there anyone else here? And the guy goes, nope, it's just you and me. And then he hears his car start. So Barry runs outside. Someone's in his car and they basically ram Barry. The killer exits the car. And this is the first time we see the killer in the full killer kind of fisherman slicker costume. But I love the way that it's shot because it's from Barry's point of view looking up at the killer. And it's a really ominous shot. It's not front on. And I love that because it gives you, it's like foreboding. It's like bigger than life. It's like you feel like a child almost when this massive person in a slicker is like standing over you. So I love how the director decided to shoot that. And then he pulls out a hook from his jacket. And that's that.
I love this scene because it really shows you what Barry is like truly in moments of life and death. He's a fucking pussy because he begs for the fisherman and the slicker not to run him through.
Mm.
I always want Barry to get run over by the car in this moment. Look, guys, I know that Barry's gonna last a little bit longer, but I don't like Barry as a character. He's not my favorite. He's a dick. He's always been a dick. And like Dean mentioned a little earlier on, he's not a redeemable character at all. But like Dean mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, I really like that the director showed the main villain of this piece from a foreboding light from up above when Barry was begging for his life. It was such a good choice from an editorial standpoint of view.
So Barry's not dead. Barry's in the hospital. And he basically said, I'm not dead because he wants to fuck with us. He doesn't want to kill us straight away yet. He just wants to make us paranoid and sweat and have fucking anxiety and all this shit, which he's not wrong. So, Julie, Helen, and Ray are there and they're trying to figure out who it is and what the fuck they're going to do. They still think it's Max. They don't know that Max is dead. We know that he's dead. And we're like, it's not Max. So they decide. So Julie brings up again this David Egan guy. So they decide to find someone connected to David Egan to see if somebody knows that they killed him, maybe they can try and find some information out, which is, that's the only thing they've got to go on, really.
I love the fact that Julie brings up David Egan up again. And I also love the fact that Julie takes it upon herself to actually try and find a relative of David Egan's to suss out some information. And as a writer, I don't like scenes that have characters talking about something that they don't know isn't factual anymore. Like they're still talking about the fact that Max is the one that's fucking with us, but we know as audience that it isn't Max because we just saw him die. I don't necessarily like that as a writer. I don't like giving my characters too much information, but in this instance, it worked really well for me.
Yeah, yeah. See, I love that. I love when we know something that the characters don't. I live for that shit because
Okay,
it's like a
okay,
secret, you know. It's like I know something you don't know. I know Max is dead. You don't know.
okay, okay.
I don't know. I like it. I like it.
All right.
So Julie does my favorite thing. She does some research into David Egan, and she finds an article about him, and it mentions someone called Susie Willis, who was David's girlfriend, who died in a car accident while David was driving, but David was unharmed, so David survived. And so she's like, okay, well, that's a good place to start. So they find the only relative they can of David, which is his sister, and they decide to pay her a visit, her and Helen. So, thoughts?
I love the scene of Julie and Helen doing research at their computer because, guys, it's the most late '90s computer you've ever seen, and
Yeah.
and they are searching on the web. What?
Yeah. Barely.
What? Barely, right? I mean, oh my
Barely.
god! But listen, it's such a great scene, and also I love the fact that Kevin brings up the sort of story point that David Egan was in a car accident, and in that same car accident, he killed his girlfriend because all this little information that Kevin is sort of giving to us, but is sort of putting in the background, is going to loom big later on. And I think that's just wonderful setup by him.
So Julie and Helen arrive at David's sister's house, pretending to have car trouble. And Julie is asking about David and sees pictures of him, and it is the same guy from the opening scene on the cliff top. So it was like, okay, we'll check. Helen asks about his friends. He's like, who is his friend that like he hung out with all the time? Now she doesn't know, but she just wants the sister Missy to like tell them something, anything. And the sister says that one friend came by not long after David was found, and his name was Billy Blue. So they're like, okay, in their heads, they're like, okay, Billy Blue. They go back to the car and they have a nice conversation in the car. Julie is having a really difficult time saying that because they destroyed the lives of his family. Like that's the problem that she's wrestling with. And she has so much guilt. And they decide to locate Billy Blue. But it's funny because Julie's the only one that really has guilt. Obviously, Barry was never going to have guilt. Helen doesn't. And we're kind of going to find out why in a later scene. And Ray doesn't. It's only really affecting Julie. So she's the
Isn't
only
that
one
what?
that has a heart.
But
What the hell?
also, but isn't that like really odd?
Yeah. That's super weird. So anyway, what do you think? Now they're going to
Yeah.
try and locate
Look.
Billy.
Yeah, look. It was a great scene, and also I love the fact that David's sister is so like unhinged in the scene. She just looks so strange. She looks like she could be the killer. And
Yeah.
this actress who passed away late last year was a wonderful actress. When Julie and Helen go back to the car, there's this moment when Julie's sort of taking on the weight of things. Like Dean said, she's the only one that really cares. But there's this really great jump scare where David's sister comes up to the mirror of the car and she goes, "Bam! You forgot your cigarettes." It's so cool, but it gets me every time.
When I saw this in the cinema, that scene scared the out of everything in that fucking movie. This was the scene where I jumped out of my seat. Where she fucking taps on the window. Can you believe it? Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I can. Yeah, I can believe that for sure.
so Julie drops Helen at her house, and it's a nice scene again between the two of them. And this is why look, Helen tries to rationalize what they did by saying maybe he wanted to die, maybe that's why he was in the middle of the road. She's trying not to acknowledge the enormity of the situation, and Julie says if that'll help you sleep at night. So the reason Helen doesn't have any guilt or anything is because she's compartmentalizing. She's going, okay, that happened over there. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to think of that. I'm just going to pretend that he wanted to die. Whereas Julie is letting
She's,
it come up.
you know what she's doing?
What?
She's putting it in a box.
Yeah, she's compartmentalizing. She's putting it in a box, she's
Yeah.
locking it, and she's putting it to the back of her head, whereas Julie's not doing that because she can't. Some people just can't do that, and, like, you shouldn't be able to do that because that's gonna be traumatizing down the road. Anyway, so Helen asks what happened between them. They used to be best friends, and she misses her, but Julie is, like, completely cut off because it's eating her alive, and nobody understands. Even the people that were there do not understand what it's like and do not acknowledge what they did. She's the only one truly feeling the enormity of what happened. So she can't even communicate with her best friend, and Helen is legitimately wondering why. So, okay. What do you think about that before we go into the house?
I love that scene because, like Dean said a couple minutes ago, and like I said a couple minutes ago, Julie has been the only one that has taken on the weight of the situation, and up until this point, as an audience member, you're kind of trying to understand why the others don't take it as heavy as Julie does. But this is a great scene to sort of give you an idea of what the other individuals in the group could be trying to do. They could be trying to, they could be trying to remove themselves from the situation. And because they're trying to remove themselves from the situation, that that could sort of explain why they don't care so much. But also, I understand that Julie is being eaten from the inside out, but I don't think her choosing to sort of back away from Helen is such a good idea. I would have much preferred it if she would have tried to if she would have tried to stay in the friendship with Helen. And despite her trying to be in the friendship with Helen, to have her friendship with Helen be the cause of her being eaten alive. So she would have guilt on both ends. She would have guilt because she was still friends with Helen, and Helen wasn't taking the weight of the situation, and she was being taken apart because of the fact that she was a part of murder.
Yeah, yeah. So now we follow Helen. She goes inside her house. And she goes in, she walks in, she says hello to her dad. Her dad doesn't even fucking acknowledge her. She goes into the kitchen, she gets a Diet Coke, and then the killer comes into the house. But the dad is so consumed by the sports he's watching on TV that he doesn't see the killer enter the house. He's just an idiot dad. Anyway, Helen doesn't know that the killer's come into the house because apparently nobody fucking locks their doors in small town America. So Helen goes up to her room, and we know because there's this beautiful shot of Helen walking towards the camera, and you can see the staircase, and as she turns to walk up the staircase, the killer walks into down the hallway, but she doesn't see it, but we do. And again, this is a perfect example of we know something the character doesn't know, so that makes us have anxiety because we're like, no. No, it's like in Scream where Randy's watching Halloween and he's like, no,
Turn
no, no,
around,
Jamie,
turn around,
no, Jamie.
turn around.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like audience participation when
Yeah,
we know something.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
don't go up the stairs.
yeah.
He's there. He's in your room. And then she
Turn,
walks into her
turn,
room.
turn, turn.
Exactly. And we know the killer's in the closet. She doesn't. And it's like, it gives the audience something to be emotional about. So that's why I like it. Anyway, she goes in, she gets changed. Her sister comes in being a fucking bitch for no reason again. And sees Helen brushing her hair. Now, this has already been set up, but I'm pretty sure someone else said, look, people have probably forgotten the little comment that Helen made at the beginning, so we have to tell people again how much Helen is obsessed with her hair. So her sister says, you and your hair. So it's like, okay, great. We know she's obsessed with her hair. Just in case you didn't catch it the first time. And then Helen goes to sleep. And that's the end of that scene.
The reason why I like this scene so much when Helen comes into her house and we see a little bit of her family life, we see how alone she really is. I like that, and we
Yeah.
don't really
Yeah.
we don't really see that from any other of the main cast. I mean, we pretty much followed Julie for most of this movie, but we don't really get a sense of how lonely she is. But I really think that Kevin in that moment, along with the director, did a really good job at conveying how lonely Helen is and how consumed with her situation she is. I think it's just great. Also, when Helen walks up the stairs and you see the killer right behind her, it's just an anxiety ridden moment. When I first saw this movie, years ago, I was having a panic attack because I have always thought about Sarah Michelle Gellar as one person and one person only.
Yeah.
She's Buffy Summers to me. So
Yeah.
every time that I see her every time I see her in another role, I'm like, Buffy, why don't you just punch her in the face? You're Buffy, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
But yeah, no. This scene was just so well executed.
So Helen wakes up in the morning, and at first you're like, "Oh, no problem. He didn't do anything. She's totally fine.
Oh yes, he did.
She's okay." And then she moves, and she's got the tiara crown on. She's like, "Well, I didn't go to bed with this." And then she sits up, and like her hair is like chopped off, or it's all over the shit. She keeps pulling her hair out because he hasn't like shaved her head or anything. He's just lopped off her hair, so it's like at different lengths, and it's coming out in her hands. And she's just like fucking panic attack. And she looks in the mirror, and written on the mirror in lipstick says soon. And so she smashes the mirror, and like nothing worse could possibly happen to her than that. Because with Barry, he's obsessed with his car, and his car was the killer totaled his car. With Helen, it's the hair. And so Julie gets a call from Helen and drives over. And on the way, she hears like noises from the trunk. She's like, what? It's like these scratching noises. And so she pulls over and opens it. And Max's body is in the trunk, crawling with crabs. And he's wearing Barry's jacket that Barry kind of like the killer took when he was at the gym. And it's only a quick flash, and that's all you need. That's all you need to see who it is. Jennifer Love Hewitt starts fucking screaming and then runs down the street. Julie goes and gets Barry and Helen. They go back to the car, and the body is completely gone. And then we get the famous, what are you
Here it
waiting
comes.
for, huh? What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Because
So
Julie is
great.
fucking pissed. She's at this, but she's like, I'm fucking pissed off. That's it.
Look. That moment. First of all, I have to address watching Helen wake up and having Helen pull her hair out and have hair actually come out of her head is like a nightmare situation. As a man with long hair, I would go crazy if I woke up and chunks of my hair were missing. That's such a nightmare situation, and I'm sure that I speak for Dean by saying she would feel the same way as well, right?
Yeah, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to a female. I mean, a male, yes, but a female, that's the worst thing.
Yeah, but I also listen. I love this scene of Julie driving to go and see Helen, but this is the one moment of the script where I call, "Come on, really?"
Which part?
Are you this part that I'm about to mention? Are you telling me that the killer put Max's body in the trunk, put a bunch of crabs in the trunk? Julie stopped the car. She gets out of the car. She opens the trunk. There's the body. There's Max. There's the crabs. She runs in to get everybody. She opens the trunk again, and it's all gone. That's impossible.
Do you know what? I actually agree with you. But then in my head, I thought, okay, what if the killer put a tarp down, right, in the trunk of the car, put the body and put the crabs, and was following Julie? Now, we don't know how long it takes Julie to go from her car to Helen's house, because that's where she went, and back again, because she's running. We don't know if it's half an hour. We don't know if it's an hour. So if the killer's following her and the body's in a tarp, all he has to do is like pick the tarp up, pull the tarp up, put it in his truck or whatever, and it looks like there's nothing there. That's the only way I can surmise that he would have done that.
That's a really well thought out explanation to how he could have possibly done it.
I thought so, yeah.
I did not think about that at all.
Yeah.
I did not think about that at all.
Because it bugs me.
But also the one thing that I absolutely love about this movie is the scene that comes up next, right? When Julie just loses her mind and she just says, come on, what are you waiting for? It's so great. Look, it's a bit of a legend with this movie. Kevin didn't come up with that line.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody else did.
Yeah.
As a screenplay writer, that would annoy the shit out of me.
No, because I read it. It's not in my trivia, but I did read it as a part of the trivia. It's real. It's not an urban legend. Like Jennifer Love Hewitt was telling it in an interview, so it's not a myth. It actually. You talking about the kid?
Yeah, the kid. Yep.
Yeah, that's true. So for people that don't know, there was a kid that won a competition to come to the set, and the director says, as a joke, not well, yeah, like I wasn't going to go in the movie. What do you want this character to do? And he told Jennifer Love Hewitt, "I want you to go out into the street. I want you to turn around. And I want you to yell in the air. What are you waiting for?" And Jennifer Love Hewitt went, "What? No."
Do it. It's gonna be awesome.
And the kid was like, yeah, it'll be really, really cool. And Jennifer Love Hewitt goes, yeah, I'll do it. I knew it wasn't going to be in the movie. It was just this kid won a thing. It was a thing for him. And so I did it. I felt so stupid doing it. And it's literally the most iconic scene of the movie. she can't believe it. She can't believe it. So that's true.
You know what?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So it is not an urban legend. It is in fact true.
Yes. Of the trivia that I read, apparently she was telling it. It comes from one of her interviews.
Okay. Yeah, because look, I don't know how you feel, but I love that scene. Every time I see this movie, I just love it.
I love it. And I have no issues with it. So they go to see Ray. Now, Barry thinks it's Ray because we haven't seen much of Ray because Ray's a fisherman and Ray would have a slicker. But they live in a fisherman town, so everybody fucking has a slicker. But Ray insists it's not him. And he says the killer's after him too. He got a letter. And Barry says, "Oh, you got a letter? I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off. Julie gets a body in the trunk, and you get a letter. That's balanced." Which is true, which makes you kind of look at him even like Ray even more. You're like, wait. And we never even actually see the letter. We never see it.
No, we don't.
Did he get it or is he lying? So that's kind of, I mean, we know he's not the killer. Fucking spoiler alert. It's not Ray. But yeah, it's just weird that we didn't see the letter. So anyway, they decide to find Billy Blue to ask him some questions. And Julie suggests visiting David's sister and showing her a yearbook to point him out because they know that it's just a pseudonym. He's just Billy Blue's a made up name. But if Missy saw the picture, she would be able to point him out. Now, Ray seems dead against this. He does not want anything to do with this. He wants to move on. What? And you're like, why? Why do you want to move on? We find out later.
Yeah, but look. Also, listen. Also, I think this would have been a perfect opportunity for Ray to tell everybody, "Hey guys, I just work on a boat that's called Billy Blue. I just want to mention that."
Yeah, but he doesn't. Yeah, I understand why he doesn't say anything because it's kind of fucking too late now.
No. Also, let me ask you this: why do you think they had Ray disappear for half of the movie? Do you think that Kevin did that just to build up Ray as a red herring and as a potential suspect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So Julie visits David's sister again, and the sister says, David committed suicide. He left a note, and she grabs the note, and the note says, "I'll never forget last summer," but it's written in the same handwriting as the note that Julie got saying, "I know what you did last summer." And Julie says, "This isn't a suicide note. It's a death threat." And so the sister was like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about." And Julie says she was there on the night. She saw the tattoo of Susie on his arm. And the sister says he doesn't have a tattoo. And basically told her to get the fuck out. And Julie's like,
"No way.
What?" And then Julie realizes, it's not David.
I love this scene because for the whole movie, we thought that our main cast killed David Egan, and that's what they've been fucking fixated on. That's what they think, that David Egan has come back somehow to hunt them down and kill them. But to find out that the person that they ran over isn't potentially David Egan, and to find out that the person that they ran over is the guy that supposedly killed David Egan, like, it's so great.
It's so great because it's like the whole movie you're like, oh, it's this guy David Egan or someone that knows him, and then it's like, oh, it's what? It's not him. The whole movie you think it's one person, and then Kevin goes, "Psych, it's not." You're like, what?
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Kevin did not have to go this hard. He did it for us.
No, he didn't. But also, I just love it when writers are that invested in what they're writing. I mean, Kevin was building this great puzzle, but in the third act, he kind of takes the puzzle and goes, turns it on his head. It's so great.
I'm going to make a new puzzle. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So we're at the Croaker Queen pageant because this is a year later. And Helen is on stage, and Barry watches from the balcony. When Helen sees the killer grab Barry from behind, she freaks out, trying to run to him. This is interesting. This is what pisses me off. She's screaming, and these people are holding her. Why are you
I don't like this
why are you
either.
touching her? Why are you holding her? She's trying to run to her boyfriend, and you're holding her. Why? You have no reason to let her go. Let her run. Let her run.
Yeah, I don't listen. I don't like that either because everybody at the pageant treats Helen like she's a psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of believing her.
I love the moment when Helen is sitting on stage and she's listening to one of the contestants sing. And she goes like,
Jesus.
she goes, Jesus, so great.
It's the same look that she gave Cordelia when she was watching Cordelia
Oh yeah, that's
audition
right.
for the show.
Oh my god.
It's the same look of disgust. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So a cop arrives asking what's happening, and Helen says, Barry's getting killed in the balcony. They go to the balcony, and there's nobody. This is what shits me. See, the car thing shits you. This is what shits me. How could the killer move the body so fast there's no blood anywhere? Fucking tell me.
But also, look, I'm gonna go down the same road with you. But how is he able to get rid of these bodies so fucking fast?
That's what I mean.
I don't.
I don't know.
I don't get that.
I don't know. The car thing I can kind of do, but this I because there would be blood everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, stabbing somebody with a knife or a hook is a messy proposition.
Of course. So anyway, the cop says, "Look, I'll give you a lift home." And as the cop is driving her home, he's just an absolute tool. He's an absolute fucking douchebag. And this, when Sarah Michelle Gellar said this line, I burst out laughing in the cinema, and it's still the best line I've ever heard in the movie. So she's sitting in the back of the cop car, and she looks at him, and she goes, "Look, you little shit stick Mayberry ass reject. There's been a murder." Oh my god, I pissed myself. It's just it like makes no sense, but like it's so funny.
What are you talking about? It makes perfect sense.
Oh my
She's in
god.
the back of a cop car.
Yeah,
Look,
I know.
It makes perfect sense. She's in
I
the back. She's in the back of a fucking cop car. She's been ignored. She's been driven. She's being driven home by an asshole. And also, this scene as a whole has very reminiscent feels to it to a scene in Scream 2.
Oh yeah, they're the cop thing. Yeah. When Sydney's in the car. Yeah.
Yep.
So the cop stops when he sees someone in a slicker working on a car. The car's broken down. The cop goes, "Oh, I'm just going to get out of the car and help this person." And Helen's like screaming, "No, no, no, that's him, that's him." The cop gets dead. Helen's in the back of the police car, but when you're in the back of the police car, you can't open the door. You have to get someone from the outside to open the door. So she's fucking locked in. She kicks the window out. She gets out of the car. Meanwhile, we switch to Julie. Julie finds out that David's girlfriend, Susie, that died, is survived by her father, Ben Willis, a local fisherman. And she's like, "Oh no, something's clicked. Something's fucking clicked." So we go back to Helen running for her life towards her sister's shop. And it's fucking tense because her sister is there. The door is locked and she's banging on the door, screaming for her sister to open the door. Her sister's taking her fucking time. She doesn't even care that her sister is screaming and crying and banging on the door. Like, this is how much of a dickhead her sister is. And she opens it just in time. And Helen's like, "I'm being attacked." And her sister kind of doesn't believe her. She's like, "Lock the back door." But before the sister gets to the back door, the killer's already gotten inside and the sister gets dead. Sister's dead. Sister's gone. Thank God, because we didn't like the sister. The sister was a dickhead. Now, this is one of my favorite scenes. I remember watching this in the cinema going, "Oh, this is going to be good." Because what it is it's Helen versus the killer in a locked shop. So you've trapped one of the heroes and the killer's there. It's nighttime. There's no electricity. You don't know what's going to happen. So Helen's trying to get away from the killer, ends up jumping out of the window into an alleyway. Now, I remember this is a trigger because I remember in the cinema when I was watching this, she runs into the alleyway. Now there's a parade going on because it's July 4th. And she smiles. She's like, "Oh my God, there's people." So she runs towards the parade and you're thinking, "Oh, hallelujah, she's going to make it." And in the cinema, I was like, yes, because I didn't want Buffy to die. I was like, yes, she's going to make it. Fuck yeah. She turns around hearing a noise behind her, and then she turns back and the killer is standing in front of her. And I was like, fuck you. And then you think she's going to make it, and then she does it, and the killer grabs her and kills her. And she's screaming. But the thing is, because there's a parade going on, nobody can hear anything. I hated that, and I hate it now. I hated it then, and I fucking hate it now.
You know what? I'm with you, Dean. Look, I adore Kevin as a storyteller, but the fact that he has killed Buffy twice, not once, but twice. First, he fucking threw off a balcony.
Yeah. In Scream 2, he fucking killed her too.
First he threw off a balcony, and now he gives us fucking hope by having her smile, walk down an alley, and almost make it, but then get fucking impaled by a fucking hook like everybody else. But also, do you find it interesting that we don't really see her get impaled by the hook? We sort of just hear everything.
Yeah. We don't see it, which is good.
That's a very interesting choice.
We never saw it with
listen,
Barry either.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We only saw his face.
We only saw his face, and we also saw the reaction from Helen. That's all we saw.
Yeah, that's it.
But again, this scene has been a trigger. It's always going to be a trigger because she's Buffy.
Yeah,
come on. No, she's a buffster.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the final act. Julie runs to the docks. Yeah, she runs to the docks looking for Ray, and she tells him she thinks that Ben Willis, not David Egan. She thinks that the killer is Ben Willis, not David Egan. And she thinks that Ben Willis killed David Egan that night. Then they hit him and he didn't die because David Egan killed his Ben Willis's daughter, which was David's fiance. So Ben was pissed. And Ray asks Julie to come aboard his boat and they'll talk about it. But she notices the name of his boat is Billy Blue. Oh. So she freaks out and Ray runs after her down the docks. A man stops Ray, tells Julie, get on my boat for safety. And she does because she's scared. So I do understand. And then Julie gets on the boat and she goes into it. She goes downstairs and she sees pictures of her, like paparazzi fucking pictures of her, Helen and Ray. Of her, Helen and Barry, as if this guy was stalking her. And then she's like, oh shit, this is the guy. So now basically, it's a cat and mouse on his boat that is now in the middle of the ocean. And I love this because it heightens the stakes because our hero has nowhere to go. You've trapped our hero on a boat with the killer. What is going to happen? It is masterful. It's masterful directing and it's masterful writing. And you know, a lot of movies, it's like, well, they were on a boat, but it was a stage. It was a boat, but it was docked. No, this boat was actually in the middle of the ocean. This was a boat, and it was really, really difficult to film. But they did it. They did it because for us. Again, they didn't need to go hard, but they did for us. And it looks realistic. So she ends up discovering Helen and Barry's body in the fucking ice compartment of the boat. Ray takes a small boat, catches up with the big boat, and basically just has a fight with the killer. So now he's grown balls. He loves Julie. He's grown balls. She's in trouble. The killer gets his hand cut off and basically swings onto a rope into the ocean. And then Ray explains that the reason he pretended to be Billy Blue was he needed to know David's family. That's why he went to see the sister, which does make sense. And the police say, we haven't found the body, but don't worry, it will show up. And that's kind of the third act of the movie. Thoughts?
I love the third act of this movie so much because, like Dean said, they put our hero in the middle of the fucking ocean on a goddamn boat, and they gave her nowhere to run. It was so tense field when I first saw it, but you know what? I watch 2 movies on the 4th of July every year: Jaws and this movie. As I've watched this movie throughout the years, it really bugs me that Julie in the third act is not more. It really bugs me that she's like a damsel in distress. I don't like that.
Okay.
It really bugs me that she spends the third act screaming her lungs out.
Yeah, it doesn't bug me at all.
Really?
Yeah, weirdly enough, it doesn't. It's
Huh? Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you need damsels in distress. I mean, you can't always girl boss it.
Yeah, that's right. Not everybody can be Buffy, can they?
Not everybody can be Sydney.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I guess,
Sydney
listen, I
Prescott.
guess,
Nobody, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that I'm just used to Kevin's Kevin's stronger characters, and Julie is
Yep.
not one of those.
No, no.
In that way, in
But
that
she's
way.
smart. She's not street
No,
smart, but
she
she's
is.
intelligent, she worked out this whole fucking thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's
yeah, by
offset it
herself.
with that.
Yes, and also,
Mm.
she is extremely caring.
Exactly.
So
So I like her as a character. I have no issues with her and the damsel in distress thing.
no, lastly, I am really, really happy that Ray was able to get his girl back. And look, and for my money, the movie should have ended here, but it doesn't. The next scene is so stupid.
I was just about to say, I don't know why the fuck they put this scene in. I hate it. Every time I watch it, I hate it. I don't.
I turn it
I
off.
fucking. It's so fucking stupid. Oh,
The,
Kevin,
no,
why? Why,
God,
Kevin? You've
no,
done so
no,
well.
I actually have, I may have an answer for you, but I don't know if it's true, but I may have an answer for you.
Go, tell me.
The reason that they put this in is that one of the producers of this film wanted one more scene of like Jennifer Love Hewitt looking sexy, so they were like, why don't we just go like a year later and put her in a towel somewhere, and
That's
then
fine, but you have to make it make sense.
and then I think the producer was like, you know what, we should set up a sequel as well. So why don't we have Julie walk up to the mirror and have this guy come? And Kevin was like, really, you want me to write that? And he was like, yeah, do it.
But it doesn't
And
set up the sequel because in the
I,
sequel, that was a dream that Julie had.
yeah. It's that's true, but from my understanding, Kevin did not want to write it, but he had to.
Well, I believe that. I believe it because this is not his writing at all. But I'm
No,
going
of
to
course
tell
not.
you because we go through move scene by scene. So we go to a year later. Julie's back at college and she's happy and she's on the phone to Ray and they're all being cutesy. And she turns on the shower in the communal showers and then she goes out. She finds a note and she's like, oh no, because it's in the same handwriting as the note she got before. And it reads pool party invite. She's like, okay, cool. So no problem. She goes back into the shower room and it's all steamy now. And written on the one of the glass panels is I still know. And then the killer jumps out at her, and that's the end. Sucky!
I have no notes except to say, fuck this last scene.
Fuck this. Trivia! Okay. All right. Kevin actually wrote this movie before he wrote Scream, but nobody would buy
What?
it.
Hold on. Like, wait a minute. Are you telling me Kevin wrote this movie of his own volition before he wrote Scream?
He wrote it before Scream. Nobody would buy it. And then when
Oh my
Scream came out, because it was such a huge success, then they bought it.
God damn it. I did not know that, guys. Do you believe that? I did not know that.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
the ice on the boat when Julie finds the bodies, the ice in the boat was actually made of gelatin. So it's like that soft thing.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Jennifer Love Hewitt auditioned for Helen. Sarah Michelle Gellar auditioned for Julie.
I think the casting director got it right.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
because if Sarah was Julie, she would have been more physical, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the roles went the way that they were supposed to. Because listen, guys, I love Jennifer Love Hewitt, but Jennifer Love Hewitt does not give off the like
Like
model
Vixen vibe.
vixen. Thank you. Jennifer Love Hewitt is a goddess, but she doesn't give off that vibe at this time in her career to me.
No.
Sarah does.
Yes. Yes. My last bit of trivia is Reese Witherspoon actually auditioned for the role. She got it, but she changed her mind at the last minute. But then she recommended her then boyfriend, Ryan Phillippe, for the role of Barry.
Oh wow! Oh my God, Reese Witherspoon instead of Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I would
I
have
don't know
worked.
why
It would have worked.
it would have worked. Look, because Reese is lovely. You know what?
Yes.
It would have worked. It would have worked.
It 100% would have worked. All right, that's my trivia. Is that it? Is there anything else from you about this magnificently written movie?
No, you can take us home.
I hope everybody's enjoyed our breakdown of I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's an expertly written movie. This movie should be shown to like screenwriting classes, I think, because it's just, again, Kevin didn't need to go hard, but he did. If you want to email us, if you want to request anything, you can. You can email us at themixtapepod@aol.com. Coming up next week is probably my favorite vampire movie of all time. We're doing Bram Stoker's Dracula. So please join us next week. And if you like what we have to say, please subscribe to us. We love our listeners. And as I say every week, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.